Hi, welcome to Ed Foodie. Today we're going to make a winter squash soup with lots of warm spices in here. It should be very tasty. And the squash I'm going to use is a butternut squash. You could use any of the other winter squash varieties. You could actually use pumpkin if you wanted to. This recipe is in 3 different steps. The first step here we're going to do, you could probably do ahead of time because this may be end up being a time-consuming recipe, and then set that aside and use it the next day. So let's get started on the first step, and that's to make some candied spicy nuts. So what I've got here is just a medium-sized bowl, and I'm going to put in a tablespoon of olive oil and 3 tablespoons of maple syrup. I'm going to add to this 1/4 of a teaspoon of coarse sea salt. And this is going to be the interesting part. I got 1 teaspoon of a spice called berbere. It's an African spice, and it's just got wonderful blend of warm spices. It almost smells to me like a cumin and chili powder, and I don't know what else. I'll have to look up and see what's in that. And it actually took me a while to find this spice. It's an African blend. So let's stir this up. So now I'm going to add, what I've done is I've mixed some walnuts and some pecans. You could use you could use almonds if you wanted to. And what I've got here is just some roughly chopped nuts. You could put these in whole and then chop them up afterwards, but I want to see how this works, where we just put in the chopped nuts. So what I did on these nuts was, since I bought them already chopped, or I already had them in the freezer, I just pulled out the biggest chunks I could find in the bag. I'm going to put these on a baking sheet, and I'm going to go ahead and spray this with some cooking spray. And I've got an oven preheated to 350 degrees. I'm going to use something new today. We got a little toaster oven. We'll see how that works. So now just spoon these on the baking sheet. Put this in our oven for about 20 to 25 minutes, and maybe we'll look at it once or twice and kind of stir these nuts around until they're nice and toasted. And this syrup will hopefully caramelize a little bit. So let's put it in the oven for, I'm going to do it for 15 minutes, take a look at it, stir them around. And then... Okay, so this is like after 10 minutes. All right, we'll put them back in. So what I'm doing here is kind of spreading these out as much as I can, because you don't want big clusters. This is almost going to end up looking like peanut brittle or something. So I'm going to try to spread these nuts out as much as I can. All right, that looks pretty good. All right, so we're going to set these aside, let them cool off. I put my red pepper flakes in a little bit larger of a bowl, and this has to be a oven-proof bowl. I've got a Corning dish here, because what we're going to end up doing is pouring in some very hot oil. Right now I've got a 1/2 cup of olive oil on the stove. I'm going to let this get hot to where it just maybe starts to smoke. What I'm going to add to the red pepper flakes is 1 teaspoon of ground nutmeg. And then when the oil gets hot, we're going to pour that in here. And you can probably use this leftover oil on all kinds of things. Catherine's got all kind of spicy hot oils that she uses for cooking and for just putting on her food. And this is another step that you can do, obviously, ahead of time. You can use this oil for a long time afterwards. Okay, we've got our half a cup of hot oil, olive oil. We're gonna pour this into the chili nutmeg mixture. And this will also be a test for Corningware to see, is this really oven proof? So, ooh, yeah, be careful, breathe in those fumes. So we're gonna let this cool off for, gosh, at least an hour. This is really hot. And that's why this stuff you definitely need to make ahead of time. All right, to get going on the soup, the first thing I wanna do, I've got a cheesecloth, and you could probably just as easy use one of these enclosed strainers. I've got about 5 or 6 sprigs of thyme. I want to add in a tablespoon of whole allspice and a teaspoon of whole cloves. And 2 3-inch stems of cinnamon sticks. So I'm just going to tie this up just tight enough where nothing comes out. So you can tell already that, wow, the spices that are in the soup, this is going to really be flavorful. You got the salty and sweet from the nuts. You got all the savory spices here and cinnamon, and oh, this is just going to be so good. All right, so now let's get going on the actual squash. Like I said, I'm using a butternut squash. I'm just going to cut the ends off. And discard those. Now what makes this kind of squash a little bit hard to peel is, the shape of it. It's skinny, then it gets wider. So we're going to cut right to where it starts to get wider. So this part's going to be very easy to peel. We're just going to peel it right down the sides here. Okay, so that part of it was pretty easy. This wider part, first thing I'm going to do is scoop out all the seeds. It's going to look like a pumpkin. All right, so I've cleaned it out. So it's just real similar to doing a pumpkin. So what I'm going to do here is put the large size down. And you're going to do basically the same thing. It's just a little bit more difficult, but not that big of a deal. So that was actually more easy than I thought it was going to be. All right, we'll take our squash, and on the thin neck of the squash, I'm going to do maybe 1-inch slices, and then maybe cut these into 4ths. All right, to kind of speed the video up a little bit, because I don't like these to go over too much over 10 minutes, I've got a 1/4 cup of oil in my stock pot and 1 medium-sized chopped onion. We're going to cook this for 5 minutes till the onion's nice and tender and translucent. Right, my onion looks pretty tender. Now I'm going to add, I had about 5 really nice large garlic cloves and pretty thinly chopped. We'll cook these for maybe another 3 or 4 minutes. Okay, we got that garlic cooked pretty well, nice and soft. Now we're going to add our diced up winter squash. And we're going to stir this just for about a minute, just to get it coated well with the oil. All right, now we're going to add 3 cups of vegetable broth. And we'll add our cheesecloth full of those nice spices. So we'll let this broth come to a simmer. We'll turn it down to a medium low. And then we'll let this squash cook for 20 to 25 minutes. You know, we'll test it, and it's got to be really soft, because what we're going to end up doing is blending this, making it a real nice creamy soup. The first thing we want to do is remove this cheesecloth with the spices. Now, if you had one of those handheld emulsion blenders, that would work fantastic and would be very quick. I don't have one, so we're going to transfer this into my food processor and blend all these onions and the squash into a very smooth consistency. Okay, we'll pour this the soup. It's all blended nice and smooth. We'll pour it back into our stock pot. All right, we're going to put this on medium low. Let's add a little bit of salt to taste. And now for the really creamy part, we're going to add in 2 13-ounce cans of coconut milk. And what I've actually done to get it even more silky smooth is I've got a can of coconut milk and then a can of coconut cream. And then this is going to be it. We're going to, stir this in really good and get it warm up that milk. Be careful to watch the burner, since there's milk in there. You don't want to scorch it. All right, let's try this soup. I got in a bowl here. So what we're going to do now is drizzle it with this chili oil that we made. So depending on how you like your spices, I like it pretty spicy. So, ooh, that looks pretty. And then we'll top it with a couple of these nuts. Catherine's going to try some of our winter squash soup.
Good. Some coconut smell.
Yeah, you can really taste that coconut milk. And I like I probably would put a little more red pepper flakes in that oil. But
Good. I like it.
yeah, it's very good. All right, let's try this. Make sure I get one of those nuts. Wow, it's like an explosion in your mouth of flavors. The coconut milk makes it really nice and creamy and smooth. Then those nuts give it a crunch. You've got savory spices, you've got spicy hot spices. Yeah, very good. Now, obviously, I think this is like a special occasion soup, because it does take quite a bit of time to make all this. So this would be great for like maybe a Christmas dinner or a New Year's or some holiday. But yeah, now that heat's starting to kick in a little bit, so that's good. So if you like the video, give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to Foodie right over there. And thank you for watching.